All right, New York politics now, and what could be let's say, a season with not a lot of uncertainty, but this one could go down to the wire. I'm talking about the state Senate. Buffalo area state senator Mark Grisanti, Democrat turned Republican. Well, lost GOP primary and now is running on the independence line, and recently he was cited with IDC chief Jeff Klein. New rumors he could caucus with IDC if in fact reelected. Meanwhile, worst kept secret in Albany, Klein shopping around, looking to expand that membership in the state Senate. Now, what IDC does has new importance after a candidate thought to have a good shot here to be a seat pickup for the Democrats on Long Island, David Denenberg. He withdrew from the race, accused of stealing from his law firm. Takes 32 seats to win the majority in the state Senate. If the GOP is close, will the IDC flip back to the GOP? I know this is a lot of alphabet soup for the audience, but at the end of the day, what we thought was over, that IDC arrangement, it could be alive and well.
It wasn't over because Governor Cuomo doesn't want it to be over. It isn't over because Democrats are taking body blows in candidacies that they should have been ahead on. And it isn't over because the Republicans have a ton of money. Still think it's slightly more likely than not that the Democrats, with the IDC, become the governing majority, but it's a strange.
Okay, so let's say the IDC, let's say it's the scenario you do, and whether they eke it out or not. If the IDC basically is the controlling vote, if you will, does it really matter if they win or lose? If they get the majority or not,
no,
the Democrats?
It matters who they go and caucus with. If the 4 or 5 IDC Democrats caucus with the Republicans, it's comfort time for Andrew Cuomo, because his economic policies are essentially Republican policies. If they caucus with the Democrats, it's trouble time for Andrew Cuomo. Minimum wage, living wage, DREAM Act, a lot of stuff that Cuomo has pushed aside will come back at him hard.
You guys all agree?
Yeah. I think exactly right. I mean, I think Governor Cuomo said that he was going to work to push the Democrats into power, the mainstream Democrats. And now he's flirting with backing Grisanti. He's doing a number of things that suggest that maybe he's broken that deal. But I think that's right. I think the IDC, I think will go with the Republicans at the end of the day, but it's a coin toss. I mean, there has to be 4 races won to make it a tie. And then,
well, or more if, I mean, they don't need to, it doesn't need to be as close if you have a swell within the IDC ranks. If there's more and more Democrats or Republicans.
But the IDC theory was they will caucus with whoever has the most votes under control.
To give
if
majority,
there are 29 Republicans, 28 Dems, they go Republicans.
Let me,
29, they'll do that.
Let me get to the governor's race here. Rob Astorino is flatly accusing Andrew Cuomo of corruption, saying the donors to the Cuomo campaign got preferable pay-for-play goodies, including state contracts. It all stems from the Daily News piece that Cuomo got $100 grand from a developer, then signed a law giving a big tax break, and did so 2 days after Cuomo got those contributions. Astorino has accused the governor of having a for sale sign on his office door, says he's got an ethics problem, calling his behavior quote-unquote corporate cronyism, and says Cuomo is exactly what's wrong with a corrupt Albany culture. That's pretty substantive.
It's strong. I mean, the corporate cronyism that's going on in Albany is crazy. The Astorino campaign released yesterday a 100-page document showing that Andrew Cuomo took $2.7 million in contributions and gave those contributors $7.2 billion in state contracts. Here we have just one example that was put out this morning where Extel got a $35 million tax break 2 days before they gave a $100,000 donation, and then 3 weeks after another $100,000 came.
But didn't
that stinks.
Didn't the Supreme Court actually say you have to show direct quid pro quo for there to be, I mean, because you could have these companies that want to have state business giving money to the government.
You got to peer into someone's soul. I mean, sometimes something is what it is.
I'm quoting the Supreme Court.
If a duck quacks, it's a duck. I mean, quacks, walks, duck.
But is there something to imply that these companies were not qualified for these contracts?
When you have a 100-page document filled with hundreds of companies that are giving money and getting 100 times in return what they're giving, that stinks. When you have a governor who takes $100,000 and 2 days later gives a $35 million tax break to that company, that smells. That is unethical at a minimum. But this is what Albany's become. This is what's happened in Washington also. It's a corporate cronyism culture.
We're remarkably quiet.
Well, he's right for all the wrong reasons. The problem with the impassioned plea against Andrew Cuomo is that his boys do it better than our boys do it because they're closer to big business as a general proposition. What's interesting about this is that what Cuomo had managed to do for 4 years is claim it was a legislative problem. And this was all the legislature. It turns out not so much. And there, I think this will resonate in the political world better than even they hope it will. The problem for the Astorino campaign is after they finish calling Cuomo names, someone's going to look at them and say, well, what do you stand for? And no one in New York, aside from the hardcore 28%, which they've got rock solid, is convinced that more tax breaks for the corporations, more tax breaks for the rich,
that might be the
go.
poll thing. I got to get to this
Term
one.
limits.
But what's stunning is you didn't say that it's wrong, that the premise is wrong.
The premise
that
is
if you give money, you end up potentially getting contracts here.
But
There's something wrong with this system.
But it happens in all 50 states
I know,
and the
but it
federal
doesn't make it
government
right.
too. No, you're absolutely right, but it
yeah.
happens everywhere.
Okay, now finally, a scandal for Bill de Blasio that only Bill Murray could appreciate. Groundhog Gate. Okay, if you don't know the story, you got to get this. Flashback back to February. New mayor, Groundhog Day event in Staten Island with Staten Island Chuck. BDB drops him. Scandal. Now it turns out the groundhog is dead. I'm not kidding. The groundhog died.
2 months later.
2 days later, or 4 days later. Groundhog wasn't actually Chuck. It was a stand-in after this, if you remember, the same groundhog bit then Mayor Bloomberg. So they didn't want to get the thing too close to him again. So they put a stand-in for him. But then it turned out that no, it wasn't even a male groundhog, whatever. It was somebody else. And he died 2 days later. So what happened? This group, they kept it quiet because nobody's alleging de Blasio did anything. But they kept it quiet because they were worried that that the city who gives them 75% of their funding or whatever, yes, I'm doing this story, that they would, so they kept it quiet. They also kept it quiet. There was a stand-in. But they did a, what do they call it? Not an autopsy, a necrotopsy, and it proved that he died because of the fall. I'm looking at you.
Somebody help him out. He's out there. He's swimming upstream. I think this has to do with Obama saluting with the cup in his hand.
Jeter.
Jeez.
I'm not the one on this one. I mean,
This is Jimmy Carter's rabbit coming back there,
I mean, this is like what they do with Obama, with the saluting with a cup of coffee or wearing a light suit. I mean, de Blasio dropped the woodshop.
He didn't mean to do it. He didn't mean to do
I'm going to stand up on behalf of all groundhogs everywhere. This stinks and needs to be investigated to the fullest extent of the law.
We need a blue ribbon commission.
but wait, what's the
We're kidding. We're kidding.
Faceless groundhog is
Take
dead,
it easy,
Dominic.
Dominic. Take it easy.
Groundhog
I didn't realize
Groundhog is
you
dead
were
because
so
the mayor has
All right,
butterfingers.
when we come back, the fight to be number 45. Will any of these men and women run, in fact, for president in 2016? And trust me, these aren't things we're just throwing off the wall. Who's for real? What are the rumblings out there? And do any of them actually stand a chance? We'll talk about that after this.